Call to order.
Mr. Dubler.
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes.
All present.
We do a moment of silence. Thank you. Stand for the I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Gonzalez, do we have any agenda changes or additions?
No, we do not.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented this evening.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Dubler.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes. Need a motion to certify matters discussed in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to certify that everything we talked in, certification of matters discussed in closed sessions, according to section 2.2-3711A1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Dubler.
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Breeden.
Yes. And we have citizens comment period. Do we have anybody?
No, we do not. Not out in the
No one outside? Okay. Dr. Painter.
Tony Stevens, 845 Airport Road, Luray. Please stop the remote learning. My child starts her senior year next year. If other areas are able to return, then we should too. Lee Meadows, 198 Panther Drive, Shenandoah. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Gonzalez. My name is Lee Meadows. I'm a teacher at Page County Middle School and the president of the Page County Education Association. Almost a year ago, I stood before the board and asked that you consider giving raises to staff members, but raises did not happen. In fact, not only did staff receive no raise, they also received no step increase, which means that the published salary scale that Page County Public Schools releases each year to the public is not an accurate representation of what the professional staff members are currently paid. Instead, it reflects only what new hires will receive in their first year in Page, and further perpetuates the disparities in what employers are paid. Despite common knowledge of this issue, it has not been resolved or even fully addressed by the school system or the board. For those of you who do not understand what I am referring to, let me give an example. One PCPS teacher who has taught in this county for all of their 24 years makes $47,553 with no master's degree. Yet if the scale reflected actual years of service, that teacher would be paid $50,290. When this issue came up in discussion, another teacher genuinely asked, "So how do you move up the scale?" Do you have an answer to that question? I do. The simplest answer is that the teacher would have to quit and go work somewhere else. Like Warren County, for 24 years of service with no masters, that teacher would be paid $61,354. Or Shenandoah County, where 24 years of service with no masters, that teacher would be paid $56,312. Or even quit and return to Page County, where as a new hire, that teacher would make $50,290. Are you starting to see the scope of the problem? I could go on and give many other examples of teachers who have stayed in Page only to be punished financially for doing so. The example I give is just one of many teachers in Page who have stayed when they could have left for greener pastures. Page County Public Schools has loyal staff members who have stayed in Page because they live here and love their jobs. Page teachers should not be abused or punished for their loyalty. You do them a disservice by ignoring this problem and continuing to conduct business as usual. Only you can address the problem with the way the salary scale is used and create a budget that will fix the repeated lack of step increases, not just raises, and take action to fix this problem. A full review of teacher salaries and the salary scale needs to happen now, and the 2021-2022 budget should take corrective steps to repair this cycle of underpaying employees. Additionally, even in a normal year, Page County Public Schools struggles to attract and retain highly qualified teachers and staff. This struggle is not going to be any easier moving forward. COVID further complicates recruitment and retention, but PCPS teachers and staff have worked very hard under very trying circumstances this year and face more of the same for the foreseeable future. I hope you will look for ways to utilize the 5% increase for SOQ positions from the state to create a budget that will make Page more competitive, not just for professional staff, but also for support staff and substitutes. And I hope you all will make a concerted effort to fix and adjust the salary scale so that is an honest reflection of salaries in Page County Public Schools. Thank you for your consideration and time. Melissa Cato, Raleighville. Being a PCPS employee that works in classrooms, I have many concerns about the latest return to school 4 days. I'm also a parent with children in middle school. I witness the struggles every day of students and teachers who try all means to reach out to students that have not done one assignment all year, but never give up trying to reach them. Students, including my children, struggling with Schoology or just using a computer every day as it has replaced books and paper. My own family has struggled with this and has had to take advantage of all resources available to us, study hall, Google Meets, and great teachers to get back on track. Everyone is still praising how well we have done in the district to keep the schools from spreading this awful virus. We have done this by following the CDC guidelines of wearing masks, social distancing 6 feet, no large groups, and wiping every surface that is touched. With the new plan, it reduces to 3 feet if possible social distancing, which is not CDC guidelines, moving students in larger groups and struggling to clean surfaces. These classrooms will not have 10 to 17 students to instruct and continuously remind them to have masks on or wear properly and social distance as much as possible. There's going to be double the risk for the students, teachers, and families. Yes, many of us have had our vaccine, but our families and many community members at risk do not have them. I believe that the 10 weeks, 40 days of face-to-face instruction is not sufficient time for the risks we're about to act upon. And last, Kathy Bailey and Kathy Frakes, 985 Lazy River East Road, Luray, and 210 Berwick Drive, Rockingham. Dear members of the board and PCPS stakeholders, PCPS employees received notification that hazard pay would be offered in a lump sum in October 2021 if employees fulfill their 2021-2022 contracts. Though we're grateful for even the consideration of hazard pay, we are concerned about the timeline. Those employed during the 2020-2021 contract year endured hardships due to COVID-19 this year. Many fell ill, had to quarantine, and or picked up additional responsibilities due to mitigation efforts and staff shortages. We ask the timeline be reconsidered to pay for work during this contract year. Cassie Bailey and Kathy Frakes, PCEA building representatives and employees.
Thank you. Minutes, February 2021 minutes are there for review. now approval of the minutes for January 2021. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for January 2021?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for January 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Dr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin?
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Capri?
Yes. Okay. Next on the agenda is informational, monthly financials. Ms. Sechrist?
Good evening, board members. You all have been provided with the monthly financial report for February with expenditures and revenues. The total of expenditures and revenues for February were $2,865,951.10. Along with that, you were also presented the local match calculation for February that was balanced with the treasurer. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer those.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on to the state budget update. Ms. Sechrist?
We just have a quick, very short, state budget update presentation. I don't have the clicker with me. Do you mind to change it? Thank you, sorry. These are just some highlights from the crossover budget of the House amendments and the Senate amendments here. The House allocates funding to address learning loss due to COVID-19, as well as a temporary extension of SPED eligibility, and this may not impact Page County Public Schools. That's something that we have to look into a little further. And a state share of 5% salary increase, and their date would be effective 7/1/21. The state also allocates funding for one-time programs to address learning loss with a state share of a 3% salary increase, and that would not be effective until 8/1/21. The next slide just shows a quick comparison of the governor's budget amount there, the House and Senate, and then how they differ in amounts there from the governor's budget. Again, this is all just their proposed. And the last slide will give you a little bit more. The General Assembly has adjourned. We still do not have a superintendent's memo, and final revenue estimates have not yet been posted by the VDOE. So we are still waiting. I was really hoping to have a lot more to share with you all this evening than that. However, I don't. We are hearing some things, out and about, that they are going to include the share at a 5% raise. Again, without a state superintendent memo, we can't really guarantee that. And obviously, just a reminder that whatever the state share is just for those SOQ positions, and we would still have to ask our locality for the remaining match or balance needed. I'm hoping by Wednesday, if we have more, I'll have a better update to give you all at our budget meeting. But right now, that's really all we have without the state superintendent's memo.
I have a question. Do you know which way they may be leaning more towards the 3 or the
The
5%?
5 is what we're hearing. All rumor has it. I like to call it word on the street, but nothing official but everything is leaning towards that 5% is what we
More
are
likely
hearing.
it's going to be the 5.
What was that?
More likely it probably will be the 5.
Yes, the 5% average raise is what they're leaning towards.
And that is only on the SOQ positions.
Right, so
Do we know how much of a difference that is from?
we have some preliminary numbers, but again, without having a calculation tool, I really don't want to throw an estimated number out, and because I could very well be wrong. So again, once we get a calculation tool, we'll have that, and I'll probably have some more scenarios for you on Wednesday.
Okay.
What time is that meeting on Wednesday?
That's 5 o'clock, I believe.
What is it?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Yes.
But that's all that I have for you right now. Again, I was really hoping to have more for you all to be able to think about and make some greater steps on Wednesday, but
You can only work with what the state
yes, sir.
gives you.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, thank you.
Yes.
The school calendar, 21, 22, Mr. Benson?
Good evening, board members. I've given everybody an updated draft of the 21-22 school calendar. We have gone back and made the suggested edits that were discussed at the last meeting. Specifically, those involve changing December 20th, 21st, and 22nd to in-person days and not remote learning days. The other thing that we did do is we had some input from staff and feedback that asked if we could flip-flop how we had November 1st and 2nd set up. In the original draft that you had, November 1st was the remote learning day and November 2nd was the parent-teacher conference day. And staff felt that it was easier if we started the week with the parent-teacher conference day and then followed that with the remote learning day. So there's really no change there in the number of actual school days, but it is a flip-flop of those, what we had going on there.
Question.
Sure.
Isn't the election on Tuesday?
Yeah, so I just made that change, so you knew that was the actual change. So we know election day is actually Tuesday, but we are gonna flip-flop. So we're asking here for parent-teacher conferences to be on Monday.
On the
Tuesday actually is election day, you are correct, but that would be our remote learning day, so that's just a flip-flop
They
there.
just didn't
You
make
just have
a
an
change.
update.
Yeah, so we'll move election day to the 2nd, when we publish the final draft.
And that remote learning is not going to affect any children that want to be at the election polls.
No, so, we will be doing exactly kind of what we did, and we've had a lot of discussion about remote learning. We've gotten a lot of feedback from remote learning, and, when you think about the number of days that students have spent using remote learning, that's quite a few this year, don't get me wrong, we understand where some of the frustration comes from with that. I think it's important for the board and for the community to understand that this calendar has 7 remote learning days next year, that we are planning to go back to school 5 days a week. And really those remote learning days are days that we, in previous years' calendars, that we were off for students. We did try to work those in and make those remote learning days to continue with the end of the school year coinciding with the Memorial Day holiday, which is what we need. And secondly, I think we've had quite a bit of discussion this year about, snow days and making snow days true snow days. Well, in this calendar, you have 180 days, which means you do have some bank time. And so you would have the opportunity to have, again, snow days if you wanted to. So we are still trying to get those remote learning days so we can bank some instructional time. But if we do have inclement weather, we would be able to go back to what we know as traditional snow days. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. Our next step for you guys would be to put forth the one-page calendar that we've posted in recent years that kind of outlines it. And as we've discussed, once we have that, we will make one for staff and we will make one for the community.
I have a question. Only because I see it. I'm looking at the spring break at the end of March, and I see that 10 and 11 month are off, and then only on the 1st is the 12-month employees off. Is there a current policy in place that's what says for 12-month employees?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's that way because often spring break for many years coincided with the Easter holiday. And the policy is written so that there's basically 2 days. We used to give, when it coincided with Easter, we would give the Thursday of spring break and then Good Friday. Now that we have the set spring break, we've gone back to the Friday. as being the day off for the 12-month, and then we still give Good Friday on the week of when
For the
Easter
12
is.
Okay. I only asked that because it's embedded in with the students, and
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure that, one, that we're fair to the 12-month employees, and then two, that it's written in policy somewhere is what those days are. Okay. Any
We
questions?
did, piggybacking on your comment, we did add Juneteenth, the Juneteenth holiday. We feel like that's going to be a state holiday, so we did include that. And that comes up on the 21st.
What was that again?
Juneteenth.
Oh, okay.
So we are trying to think ahead with that as well.
Okay, so that gives, everyone's off, but 12-month employees are already off, will be off for that date as well.
Exactly.
Okay,
But now you're giving it to them on that Monday, or,
We're right, the Monday, the 21st.
because we are already off, and if it's a state holiday, then we give it to them on the Monday.
right, okay,
We've tried to do the same with, when July 4th holiday falls on a Sunday, we give the Monday.
right, okay. Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Benson. Return to learn update, Dr. Gonzalez?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and board members, we wanted just to, we know that you got in the update and you know what our plans are, but we wanted to publicly discuss it because we just wanted to clarify some of the high school reasoning as to why they can't come back 4 days a week. But before we delve into that, our elementary students came back 4 days a week starting today, and our middle schools will start next week. We wanted to regroup some of our middle schoolers based on kind of where they are in progression to make their time with us more successful between now and the end of May. And so they'll be coming back next week. With high schoolers, we had double the number of high schoolers in our buildings today. We had over 200 in our schools. And the principals are working to accommodate those who, one, need to be there because they're struggling, and two, need it for other reasons. Might not be academic, but they need the socialization or they need the connectedness or whatever. So they are reaching out to students and making things available for their families. We took a survey from we got some data from our principals. About 42 to 44% of our students are still electing to be remote learners at the high school level. Okay, so it's still a significant percentage. That doesn't include the ones who aren't being successful, that we're mandating that they do the synchronous learning, either coming in or having access to the lesson. The thing that we're finding out is that just some of our community doesn't truly understand why you can't just like put the A and B day back together at the high school. And we had a big discussion with our principals this past week, Mr. Benson and myself and Mr. Runyon, just to have a clearer understanding of why can't we put it back together. And initially what happened was when we were looking at it in terms of trying to keep it down to a cohort of 10, when you do it at the high school, because there's so many singleton classes, that it's not like in elementary where you teach a grade level or you can teach multiple grade level, like your license allows you to do more things. If you are only certified to teach biology, that's all you can teach. So you're very limited based on your licensing. So it does not work the same as secondary versus elementary. So what they did is, it wasn't so easy just to split. They did look at it, build the schedule, split it in half. Well, then it was so lopsided and it was so hard with the singleton classes, singleton being like one period of a particular class. And so it just got to be such a nightmare that they designed it to fit all students for A day, all students on A day, and then all students on B day, but their schedules wouldn't, like you can't just put them back together. Let's say you have English first period and you're an A day student. When you come on a B day, it might be third period because that teacher's teaching a different schedule based on these B day kids. You might offer, and I'm using this hypothetically, like Spanish 4 might be on A day because that group became a cohort and they were attending all their classes together, everybody had Spanish 4. So Spanish 4 is not even offered on a B day. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just that simple of putting it back together, but they've worked really hard to accommodate those who need that experience. And it was also driven by the size of the classrooms. I know we have beautiful, relatively new schools. They're about 10 years old now, but they did cut down some of the sizes and spacing. And so when you put those desks in there, you can't even get them 3 feet apart in order to do what we need to do. So we're still very limited on our spacing. And that's what drove the whole decision for the 6 feet when we were using that metric, that you couldn't get everybody in there. And then again, you take the student body, you cut it in half, cut it in quarters, put them in cohorts, because originally the kids were staying together the whole time and teachers were rotating for safety. Now the students get to rotate and the teachers are staying because they're filming and they've got their cameras set up like Mr. Samples over here. And so they've got to stay in the same location for filming. But essentially that's the 30,000 foot view as to why high school can't go back together. And also the tech center is a component. And they also, in order to build that schedule, we were sending tech center kids. If you're an A-day high school student, then you go to tech center on B-day. Or if you were a tech center student on an A-day, then you went to the high school on the B-day. Now, you will find some students going 4 days a week. Like I said, the struggling kids, we're finding ways to get them in. Other parents who are calling us who want their children in, we're finding ways. It's just their schedules aren't going to match up, A-day and B-day. They look totally different. Some of our tech center students are going 4 days a week, but they have to be fully remote students if they want that extra hands-on time at the tech center. So they are accommodating them that way. So really, when you look at it, we're offering a little bit of everything to fit the personal scenario. So we've got 2 days, we've got 4 days, and we've got full remote learning at the high school level going on. So, Mr. Benson, anything I missed there to add? Any other questions about the high school schedule? We've got some.
What you just said would be worth putting in a YouTube video and just putting it on Facebook so that people can hear that explanation.
Hear that.
It takes a long time to explain.
Yeah.
Just as a suggestion.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And I'll piggyback off that, like a question and answer kind of
Kinda like we did the other one.
on the website.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's the question, here's the answer.
Okay.
Because the same questions I know I'm getting, other board members are getting, you're getting.
Yes.
So if you've answered it once,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they may not see the meeting that it was definitely addressed with the board,
Right.
but if it's there, then, you
We
know.
can certainly push it out to our high school populations and we can get a question answer. We can even do a video. We can
Or
certainly.
you could go to this meeting, YouTube, go to minute 20 point whatever, and then there's the explanation.
All right, we
That'd
will
be
do that. Mr. Benson will follow up with that, and Mr. Samples, if you'll let us know what minute mark it is, we will indicate that. Very good, thank you.
And I know, I'm just thinking, most people don't know what you mean by singleton. And for
Okay.
example, if you have an Art 1 class and you only had 20 kids sign up for it, you're only gonna offer it one time.
Exactly,
And that's what you mean by singleton. It's only offered one time
Exactly.
throughout the whole semester or each day, you know,
Right.
because of,
yes,
so that they understand that. 'Cause
exactly.
if you don't have more than that, you can't have 2 or
Right.
3. You base it
And-
off your population.
Right, and it is due to our limited number of staff and our limited number of students, and it's not just electives, it could be like chemistry. You can have one
Right.
chemistry class, one period, that's it, and it's gotta fit everyone's schedule. And again, it wasn't our attempt to keep the kids based on their electives, keeping them together as a cohort, much like our elementary children are all in a cohort, like they were all divvied up, nice and neat. It just didn't work out as neat at the high school, and by default, it doesn't allow the schedule just to go back to 4 days as easily like that.
I think at the high school, you don't necessarily have grade level classes. Okay, so if you're a ninth grade student, everybody gets English 9, but when you start going into the other core academic areas, math, science, or history, there's different options that students will take based upon where they're at. You know, we have some students in math that go to Algebra 1, but we have some students that go to geometry. And that follows right on through. So you don't necessarily, like Dr. Gonzalez was saying, you don't have a corresponding B-Day class on the other side because we don't really have grade level classes. You know, there's a lot of different things that can happen at the high school level. Also, our cohorts didn't really balance. When we talked about A group and B group, you know, we split by last name. When we spoke with our high school administrators, they were pretty clear with us that unfortunately, last names didn't necessarily work. There was quite a few more students in A group than there was in B group just based upon last name. I don't know, maybe if it's all the Comers up in Shenandoah or whatnot, but that happened, okay? And so when you went to do things like that, you didn't necessarily have the right number of students to work that. And then I think the third thing is Dr. Gonzalez talked about the technical center. When we went to a 6-period schedule, and we started talking about a morning or an afternoon at the technical center, all students really would be getting was 3 classes, 3 credits. And we tried to ensure that students get at least 4 for that. So the idea of a morning or an afternoon at the technical center really does kind of shortchange students for their academic core classes that they were needing towards graduation as well. So just from a pure credit opportunity, there were some reasons. And I would say as you start to line those different things up, and we'll do like you guys said, put together a document or reference and video time here. One decision led to the other decision, led to the next decision, you know? So when we started talking about switching from a 4x4 to a 6 period, that meant, okay, that gave us the social distancing side that we looked at, but it meant that we would have to be only 2 days in the classrooms because of the way classes, which means 2 days at the technical center, and then other things kind of fell in line after that. So we are hoping to, as the parent comments have, you know, said here this evening, we've got about 10 weeks to go. And certainly if we were to go back and maybe look at it again, I think on our Google Meet with the high school, we would try to do things as much. We've learned a lot through this COVID pandemic and you know, but I do believe what Dr. Gonzalez said, you know, the current schedule is meeting students where they are at. And at the high school level, we have students at a lot of different places.
And just to clarify why we did go to the 6 period day from the 4x4, we realized some divisions didn't do that. They stuck with the 4x4. But we were dealing with uncertainties as much as everyone was. And we just felt like academically, because all our decisions have been driven about the academics first, you know, the instructional needs of our students. We just felt like we didn't know how much we'd be out of school and in quarantine. And we knew that our virtual learning was really remote. It wasn't as robust as it needed to be. That we just felt like if it hit us hard in the fall when we didn't know how this was going to work out, we didn't want to be rushing through January to finish and they've missed all this time. And so we felt like if we switched to a 6 period year-long class, depending on our quarantining, we'd have enough time to catch our kids back up and be able to be more successful on the state assessments or whatever end-of-year assessments we had. So originally that was our driving force, our decision, which then impacted our master schedule. And then, like we said, all these other components impacted it to the way it is now. Not perfect, but we did the best we could to meet the needs of our kids. And we really do feel like we're meeting as many of the needs of our kids now. And we have had some parents who have been vocal, but then their kids aren't even attending school. They're remote learners too. So, you know, a lot of people are having a lot of opinions, but not everybody's even coming back to the school setting. And that's okay, because we had one parent tell us how their child is learning time management and prepping for college by having to do online classes, and they're also able to work. So for some, this model is working for them. So, but we still have others that we're attending to.
Any other questions? I just have one because I tend to always look forward. Knowing what we know now, knowing what we're going through now, and knowing what we have to do with our schedule as the kids come back more time, are we looking for next year how we're doing the high school schedule so that can mesh better with the VOTEC Center? And
Well, we're hoping to be able to go back to 4x4 next year now that we feel like we've kind of gotten through the pandemic, and now that we have more technology in place and more kids are finding ways to get to the internet. So we feel like we can go back, and then we've definitely, like Mr. Benson said, we've learned some lessons that high school principals have as far as how they designed this master schedule, and would probably design it differently because you can take out some of the restrictions. Like if we're going to let students travel and not keep them in a 10-group cohort all day, that totally changes how you approach the master schedule. So elements like that will definitely impact it. But again, looking at the 5 days, we are looking to go back.
I think we're also looking at the possibility of Virtual Virginia handling our remote student population.
Yes.
I think it's been extremely difficult for our teachers to manage both models. And so Virtual Virginia has put out an option for us to consider, and I think it would be in the school division's best interest to look at that and say, if you want to be a full remote student next year, we will allow you to pursue that opportunity with Virtual Virginia. And there is a way for those students to still count as part of our ADM.
Is that high school only, or does that include elementary, middle school too?
Yes.
Yes, they've taken it down. They have. And that goes back to what we were saying before, that we were looking into, do we need a virtual academy for Paige? Because for some students, this has worked. For others, it has not. Financially, instead of us doing it on our own, it is going to be what we were running the numbers. It's looking like, yes, we can pass it off to Virtual Junior, and they're opening it up the opportunity for us to expand it to our families. So soon we'll be making announcements to our families that this might be available. It's definitely a cheaper route than us trying to do it.
I think it's important that, you know, in the very near future, the school division should begin to survey families and students to say, what are you thinking about for next year?
Yeah, we need
Because we are in that phase right now where we are beginning to look at our program of studies. We're beginning to look at those documents and master schedules, and believe it or not, Virtual Virginia is going to want some numbers from us if we're in on that as well. So I think we're hoping to put a survey out here very soon that says to families, okay, you've seen what both options, please begin to start thinking about which one you'd like for next year.
And how far down does Virtual Virginia go?
Down to third grade, wasn't it? Third grade?
Goes down that low?
Yes.
It is now,
Okay.
after this year, yes.
And
Mhm.
with the cost, how much is that going to cost the division? Is that an additional piece that we need to look at for the budget?
It would be, I can't quote it off the top of my head, I'm sorry, Mr. Breeden,
No,
but
that's
we
all right.
have the handouts, and, but when we were running the numbers, we thought it was definitely cheaper than hiring teachers to do that exclusively. to
Right.
Take that
The
on.
pricing is based upon our composite index.
Right.
Okay, so the state will look at that. It will, based upon where we end up with our composite index, it could, I would say on average, it's about $1,500 per student
For the year?
for the year. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But in that, if we were, like I said, if we were to go that route, we would still be able to collect ADM revenue from the state
Yeah, so it helps us.
As our
So-
student?
as our student.
Right, so it essentially would offset that cost, because we get ADM monies for that student.
Yeah. Okay.
And they are allowed to change at semester, so the pricing is given to us at semester, so for some who decide that's not what a good fit for them, they would have the option to roll in or out at the
So
semester.
they could do semester one that
Right,
way
and then if they don't like it, they can come back to us, and because they're still our child, they can still roll over, and we don't have to pay that tuition for that next semester.
At one composite index, I remember, is like around 1,300, and if it's a little bit different, it's at 1,800, so I use
Isn't that-
1,500 as an average.
as an average.
In that semester though, not the year?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a semester.
That's per
Yeah,
semester.
Semester, yes.
So it could roughly be $3,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And if you think about what we get per student, like Dr. Gonzalez said, that cost would be offset.
Back from the state?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. The next on the agenda is about the superintendent search. Just want to let everyone know that the board is starting that process, coming up with our timelines, coming up with our qualifications, characteristics of a superintendent. We're beginning that process. And beginning that process, we did ask Mr. Moran to send out an email to the building principals to get survey questions. We have received those. The board has those in hand. We will be reviewing those and coming up with our survey questions to create a division level survey that will go out to all staff, and then one that will go out to the community. Did I leave anything out, Ms. Smoot? Okay. All right, any other board member have any information they want to give on that? Did I cover everything?
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're on to the information piece on the school board FOIA webinar. Just want to remind the board that we do have an offer from VSBA for a lunch webinar on April the 7th. You have it in your packet from 12 to 1 on the FOIA for school boards that do closed sessions and how to make motions to go in and out of. That's what that one is on. I understand that there are a few of us already registered. If any other board members wants to get registered for that, it's an hour. Let Linda, Ms. Breeden Wallace know. She'll get you registered and confirmed. Anything else on that one? Ms. Wallace, Breeden Wallace, did I leave out? Got it, okay, thank you. All right, on to action items from claims for payment, Ms. Seacrest.
Good evening again, board members. This claim certification that you all received does look a little bit different than normal. I'm going to start at the top part there. That is our most current accounts payable check run dated for today, 3/8/2021, with total operating funds of $231,363.54. Food service fund, $57,683.02 for total expenditures of $289,046.56. Down below that is the claim certification for the accounts payable check run that we were unable to do due to weather. And so I wanted to do those separately so that you all could still see them. And that one is dated for February 22nd, 2021, total operating fund, $216,129.61. Food service fund, $149.59. Total expenditures, $273,279.20. You also have been then provided two separate lists of claims as well. I did those separately. One for the March 8th and then one for the February 22nd claims, as well as the check registers for both of those. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions from the board? Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the claims for payment as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to pay the claims for payment.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Faber.
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan. Yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. Then the next action item is purchase order over 10,000. Ms. Sechrist?
Board members, we do have one purchase order over 10,000 for your all's review and approval this evening. It's for Orton Gillingham training for $14,025.
I understand that's a reading remediation program.
Phonics, yes, sir. Yep. We received a grant from the Virginia Department of Education for BTSS, so that cost will be covered through that grant.
How many teachers are getting trained?
I think we're sending, the training is right out just over $1,000, so I think that would include like 12 or 13 teachers. We've started to work our way down a little bit, and, or I guess I should say up, and to begin to include special education teachers as part of that training as well. We had a little bit of turnover at the elementary level, so we want to make sure everybody's on par with what we're doing. So, talk about that.
Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the purchase orders over $10,000 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the purchase orders over 10,000.
Mr. Lansbury.
Yes.
Mr. Faber.
Yes.
Dr. Faber.
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan. Yes. Mr. Green.
Yes. We move into board discussion time.
I would just like to remind the board on March 24th, that's going to be the Virtual Valley Regional Program. And then before all the COVID and everything, the whole region from Highland and Bath and all those areas all the way to Winchester, we'd get together for an evening meal, and then they'd have a speaker, and then they do the art, contest and all that sort of thing. But it's going to be the 24th, and it's virtual. What's the deadline for registering for that?
It may be tough. I'll have to check.
Okay. So look at your calendars. If you're interested, let Linda know as soon as possible, because it's already March 9th or 8th. Yeah, so.
Anyone else?
Now that you mentioned it's March, I look forward to seeing if any of the high schools do like virtual art shows or anything, that they could share some artwork of the students. For certain they're not going to have plays and things, but
We've begun that process. It's on the
Awesome.
Facebook page.
The other thing I want to bring to attention to the board that today I asked Dr. Gonzalez a question about the reading specialist for the division, because I got asked that from a community member, several, if we had one at the middle school or at high school. So I asked her that question, and then she gave me more information than what I was prepared for at the time, but she is giving us more information about the reading specialist in the division. So that may also be something that we may need to look at for the budget. So when she comes back with more information, that will be shared with the board as well. Anyone?
And I would just like to thank everyone at the central office and all the schools for reaching out with the care and support to the Wenham family. I know in my hometown, Shenandoah, the elementary school did a very nice display with the blue ribbons and a lot of businesses and flags and everything. And the outpour of support in this entire county was just overwhelming. And so hats off to the school system for working with that and being their support for Mrs. Wenham and family and so forth. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a nice on football field. The town of Stanley as well. All the ribbons that you see on the poles, they were done by community members who paid for donations to pay for those ribbons that are around town in Stanley. And they go from one end of the town to the other, and they're on every pole within the main section of the town, especially around the police department. So that was very nice that was done. So that was contributed by the community there in Stanley to have that. And then a lot of community members also bought those same ribbons to put on their property. So it's been nice to see that community in Stanley come tight together with the police. And around the London family, most definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I know Mrs. Pettit did a good job of reaching out to Karen. I know you sent things out for employees' assistance, and that's a great thing to do because you need to talk about it. And I encourage folks to do that. Tons of school members were there at the funeral, so I was appreciative of that. Also, Page County High School, I think the Scholastic team finished up regional runner-ups. I saw that on the sign today. And T.R. Williams has continued to get tons of support. Luray players are putting it on their stuff. All the different ladies are putting it on it. He's doing a great job, working hard, keeping a great attitude. And Mr. Stan Price, keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He's recovering from surgery. And I just remember him as just what teachers mean to you. He introduced me to the Great Gatsby and of Mice and Men, and I always remember him whistling down through the hallway. It was really cool to hear him do that. So we'll keep him in your prayers. Teachers don't understand the impact they have on folks. I encourage everybody to keep doing that.
Lifelong impact.
Lifelong, forever. Yep.
I'd like to thank Mr. Moran for what he took part in there, seeing that our children were safe.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, with the shooting and Stanley. Yeah.
And
And the football field. I know you got gravels and arranged a bunch of stuff. And then Dal did a great job with the funeral home, with everything arranged too. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a nice cooperation with the school system as well as with the community to get that taken care of. It was nice. I couldn't attend in person. I wanted to, but I watched the thing live on the computer, so that was nice. Although I couldn't hear some of them, but it was nice to watch.
also hats off to the school system for the shots last Wednesday.
Thank you.
Our appointment was at 1:10 and we walked out at 1:08. That's how far ahead, everything was just like clockwork. And, you know, Mr. Moran said it best. When you want something done, give it to a teacher and they'll make sure it gets done. And then everybody was involved, and so, hats off for all that. That's a lot of undertaking.
Yep.
Well, thank you, appreciate that.
Anything else from the board? Do I have a motion for adjourn?
So move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meeting's adjourned.